Once again, welcome back to Crypto Tutorial. On today's video, I'm going to talk about Dogecoin. And firstly, I want to thank you once again for watching my previous videos and even liking those videos. So if you are still interested, do not forget to subscribe and stay up to date by hitting that bell notification. And also you will find a schedule where you can see when I will be uploading a video or actually having a live stream. So that's very interesting as well. That's something I wanted to show you before heading towards the Dogecoin chart where we're currently at. And what we are seeing is the Dogecoin compared to Bitcoin chart on the daily time frame. And I want to enable right away the MACD to show you guys this possible crossover on the MACD compared to Dogecoin. And also further, I would like to talk about a news article that I read earlier today, and I wanted to show you something very interesting over here as well. So let's enable the moving averages at first. What we are seeing is actually that if we make this a little bit smaller, you are seeing that the moving averages are actually serving as a major level of support, especially once we saw this big wick towards the downside getting started on the Dogecoin chart. We saw on the price action that it actually found support on top of the 50-day moving average compared to Bitcoin. So this is something very important, that we are still above the moving averages on the daily chart, and these will serve as levels of support if Dogecoin breaks out towards the downside. And if the Dogecoin breaks out towards the upside, I personally think when we see a retest of this 50-day moving average, it could be quite possible to head even further up. But for sure, also, I wanted to let you know that this orange box down below is a major level of support where we are seeing that we traded in between during a couple of days before heading even further up. And I think this is a level you want to monitor very closely, especially because if Dogecoin breaks even further down below, this might be a level where it will be finding support on top. So let's head further towards the MACD as I told you before. And what is the MACD actually telling us? We saw previously a double crossover on the momentum indicator, and we saw a huge momentum towards the downside getting created. And also right now, during the upcoming days, we might see once again more momentum towards the downside getting started, especially if we do not see a crossover anytime soon. Even more momentum towards the downside could be quite likely, so that is possible for sure. And if we see once again a double crossover, it might be possible that we would see more momentum, even more momentum towards the downside getting started. But for sure, it's also possible that we will see a crossover like we saw previously, and that we will see momentum towards the upside getting started and the price action or the strength compared to Bitcoin increasing. So that is something really interesting to take a look at. What will the MACD tell us during the upcoming days and weeks? So for sure, the MACD is something you would like to monitor closely, but I'm quite nervous right now on the Dogecoin compared to Bitcoin chart, especially because if you take a look at this pattern over here, what we are seeing over here is a type of descending triangle getting created, as you can see. And descending triangles tend to break out towards the downside instead of towards the upside. But of course, we saw that previously, before this triangle was even created compared to Bitcoin, we saw this huge move towards the upside getting created. And that is also why it could quite likely break as well up towards the upside instead of towards the downside. We already saw that we have multiple touch points on the horizontal level of support. We saw the breakout. Also, we found support on top over here, and many of these wick of the candles went all the way down and found support above this horizontal level of support. But the descending resistance line has been tested already twice now and could be tested once again shortly if we see a slight upward momentum getting created. So this is something very important to take a look at, this descending triangle on the Dogecoin chart. And for sure, what I think is of utmost importance over here is that if you take a closer look, we could be breaking out towards either the up or towards either the downside. And what I wanted to show you is that if we measure its all-time high compared to Bitcoin all the way down towards the lowest wick, we already saw a 48% drop. But I am not a huge fan of measuring this like this, because if it's a 48% drop, it's a healthy it is a healthy setback, but it could be possibly going even further down. And what I personally think is that that might be happening shortly, especially because we saw the MACD where a crossover towards even more downward momentum could be likely. But we see, if we do not measure the wicks of the candles and only the bodies of the candles, we see that the drop has, compared to Bitcoin, is only 34%, and 34% is not a major drop compared to Bitcoin. So Dogecoin is still holding strong compared to Bitcoin, and I personally think that if we break out towards the downside, it still would be a healthy setback compared to Bitcoin, especially because 30% is not that much at all. That is something I just wanted to show you quite shortly before heading further and measuring this possible breakout towards either the up or towards the downside. So if I measure it from the beginning of the descending resistance towards the horizontal support, and I place this measurement like this, for example, we could be seeing a possible move towards the upside getting created on the Dogecoin chart compared to Bitcoin of approximately 47%. So a major move compared to Bitcoin could be started, and especially if you enable the moving averages, it could be quite possible that we would see a retest of the 50-day moving average somewhere around here. So this might give Dogecoin chart compared to Bitcoin enough strength to head above this descending resistance line and finding support on top of it before heading further up compared to Bitcoin for sure. Of course, this 47% move could also be towards the downside instead of towards the upside. And if this move is created towards the downside, I personally think that it won't be heading all the way down, especially because we saw previously that we were trading in between this orange box, and that will serve as a major level of support. But it's not only the orange box that we are taking into consideration, also the moving averages are down below that will be serving as a major level of support if Dogecoin breaks towards the downside. So this is something I wanted to show you on the Dogecoin compared to Bitcoin chart, and for sure it will be a possible trading opportunity once we see a breakout on the Dogecoin compared to Bitcoin chart. The price action of Dogecoin will be influenced by that. So for sure, if it breaks out towards the downside underneath this horizontal level of support, I personally think it would be a great entry point for a short position, but also if it breaks out above this descending resistance, it would be a great entry point to place a long position or a long trade. And if you're interested in doing so, do not forget that down below in the description section you will find several links to the top 4 exchanges where you can buy spot and leverage trade on several different types of cryptocurrencies. You can earn up to $2,000 deposit bonus on Femex, and you can trade with over 700 different type of cryptocurrency on Gate.io. So if you will be using the link down below, you will be also supporting the channel by doing so, and it will be highly appreciated. So thank you very much for that. I will be heading back to the Dogecoin compared to Bitcoin chart, but this time I will be actually looking at the 4-hourly time frame, and what we're seeing over here is that we are currently inside of the moving averages. We are finding support on top of the 200-day moving averages. If you take a look more closely, you can see that we are trading in between the 200-day and the 100-day moving average, and we are finding support on top of the 200-day moving average, as you saw over here. And that is something very interesting to take a look at, because the moving averages on the 4-hourly time frame are already serving as major levels of support and could be giving Dogecoin enough strength to break even further above this downward sloping resistance before heading further up and seeing that 41% move towards the upside. But let's take a look at the EMA ribbon, and what we are seeing over here on the EMA ribbon is actually that for the first time during the past couple of days, Dogecoin has not been rejected by the EMA ribbon as we saw previously over here, and over here. No, this time Dogecoin actually broke above the EMA ribbon as finding support on top of it. So this could be an indicator that we will be seeing the longs taking over the shorts and heading further up, as I said before, breaking out above the descending resistance and finding support on top of it. So for sure something very interesting to take a look at. But also I would like to enable the MACD that is actually telling us a crossover happened and momentum towards the upside is getting created. But for sure, you have to take in consideration that if we see a major momentum towards the upside getting created, as we saw previously, major momentums towards the downside will follow, and that could be the potential breakout towards the downside if we are not able to break above this descending resistance line compared to Bitcoin for sure. So let's take a look at the US dollar chart, and what I wanted to show you over here is as well that on the EMA ribbon we are looking quite healthy. For the first time, Dogecoin has not been rejected by the EMA ribbon. It is finding support inside instead of above the EMA ribbon, and that's for sure something very interesting because it still could be rejected on the US dollar chart. So that is for sure something very interesting to take a look at, and especially because if you take a look at the US dollar chart, it has been rejected multiple times already once it decided to retest the upper resistance of the EMA ribbon. So for sure something to monitor very closely. And as well, over here on the MACD, we are seeing this crossover towards the upside getting created. We are seeing momentum getting started, but for sure we could still see a momentum switch getting started towards the downside, and that would mean that the price action of Dogecoin would be going back down once again, and that Dogecoin would get rejected once more by the EMA ribbon. So for sure some things to keep in mind before you invest in Dogecoin right now at this particular moment. Also, I spotted something very interesting under RSI, the relative strength index, and what I wanted to show you is actually this over here. If you take a look at the past couple of days, over here you have a lower high getting created. As you can see over here, this high is higher than this high where we're currently at, and on the RSI at that particular moment the high was lower than the high where we're currently at on the RSI, and this is actually a bearish divergence, and I think this is very important to take a look at, because if you take a look at this over here on the RSI, is actually telling us that we will see downward momentum getting started on the Dogecoin chart and also on the Dogecoin price action, and that's personally why I still think that it is very likely that we will get rejected by the EMA ribbon once again and breaking down below. So for sure not something very fun to look at, but it might be possible that this could happen. But let's take a look where it'd be possibly heading towards if it breaks towards the downside even further, and that is why I will be placing this Fibonacci retracement from the beginning of this uptrend at approximately the 21st of April all the way up towards its all-time high on the 8th of May. And you can see the Fibonacci level has been placed. Currently we are trading at approximately 0.618 Fibonacci, and I personally think if we see a move towards the downside getting started, that we will be heading further down towards the 0.786 level. And because we saw the bearish divergence getting created on the RSI, I think this is very likely to happen. For sure, some people might disagree with me, but I think you have to take this into consideration, that it is possible that we will be breaking below this major level of support on the orange box, even further down, heading towards the 0.786 level of Fibonacci, especially because if you measure this potential move, it is a move of approximately 40%, and that would mean it will be quite likely to happen, especially because we saw a potential move of 40% also getting created on the descending triangle compared to Bitcoin. So for sure some things you have to take into consideration if you are a Dogecoin holder, and also if you are willing to place a short position, I think there will be a great possible trade where you can have a lot of profit if you do it correctly once it breaks below the horizontal level of support on the compared to Bitcoin chart, as I showed you previously, and also the bearish divergence that we saw on the US dollar chart getting started on the RSI. So for sure I wanted to look at this for this moment, and I would like to show you just one last thing before ending this video, and that is this major news of Doge Bear holder Barry Silbert says Dogecoin is going back to sub 1 billion. And I won't be reading this article, but I will be placing it down below in the description section of this video. But I wanted to take a look at just one small part of this article. That's the last part over here. So Silbert went short on Dogecoin. Earlier this month, at the height of Dogecoin all-time high market cap, Silbert announced he had taken a short position on Doge as he predicted its price would go down. As you can see, the tweet has been placed over here. So far, that is a bet that's paid off. Since the announcement 3 weeks ago, Doge has lost 54% of its value against the dollar. In comparison, its performance against Bitcoin has fared better, having lost 29% compared to the leading cryptocurrency. So I think this is something you want to for sure be looking at. And also the question on everyone's mind is, are further drops incoming? And my answer to this question is, I personally think we will be heading even further down and seeing a 20-cent Dogecoin very likely in the upcoming weeks. So that's my personal opinion, of course, but it could for sure be going also back up above the 0.5 Fibonacci level and heading to the 0.4 US dollars, so the 40 cents US dollars. So if you appreciated content, do not forget to hit that subscribe button down below on the description section, and I wish you a very pleasant day. So peace out.